Hi guys, welcome back to the Shannon Show. Hello if you're new. So today's video is going to be a review of Glow Up Season 2, Episode 2. Feel free to comment down below your thoughts on my commentary. I'm always up for a chat. I'm always up for a debate. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. So recapping last week, Ashley went, she lost the face-off with Jake. I think the general sentiment was that everyone thinks that Jake should have gone. Personally, I wasn't necessarily against Jake staying because I feel like he did do better in the face-off, and comparing their work in the episode, they were pretty much on the same wavelength. Yes, Ashley was clearly more talented than Jake, but Ashley didn't particularly wow me in that episode. And personally, I was here for the drama that Jake created, but this week it seems like he wasn't really involved in much drama. So now that's making me kind of now question why they actually kept him. So this week the main challenge is London Fashion Week, and they're creating looks for the runway. And their first task was to recreate this look that Dominic came up with, and if they did bad, then they'd be stripped of their models, have to sit out, and their model would be given to somebody else. I think the highlights in terms of the challenge was Berny. At first he was coming in very confident. He was saying, oh well, I've already done Fashion Week before. So from that I was just like, well, I'm expecting good things from you then if you're talking all of this. Well, I've already been here. And what do you know, Bernie struggles. He's taking longer than he needs to do his look. And then when Dominic comes around and asks him, why are you taking longer than you need to? He's making up all of these excuses. He's saying his model has acne prone skin in front of the model. Obviously skin is a touchy subject, especially with models. And Dominic was just not impressed, and especially not impressed that he was basically saying that the model had bad skin in front of her. I guess acne prone skin is the nicer way of saying it, and I think most models know if they have acne prone skin, but obviously it's just a bit of a faux pas there. So when he said that, I was just like, this is not gonna be good for Bernie. And then on top of that, his look was not looking that great. So instantly I was thinking, I think possibly Bernie could be in trouble this week. Another key moment in the challenge is Dom was not a fan of Shanice's makeup. He tells her to improve it, and when she does improve it, he says it's not up to his standards. So he actually takes the model away from her, so she's been left to sit out. Now, in terms of Shanice's makeup look, it definitely could have been better. The shape could have definitely been better. But I do think Dom was being a bit too harsh considering her look compared to some of the others. So I don't understand why Shanice had to sit out but Bernie didn't, when Bernie's look looked worse than Shanice's in my opinion. So I think Dom was being a bit harsh for Shanice. It kind of felt like she was being singled out. But what do you guys think? Do you think Dom was right to make that decision, or do you feel like he was kind of singling Shanice out? Let me know what you think. And then of course Brendan, he really excelled in this challenge, and he was actually given a second model, and he was the only person to be given a second model. So at that point I was kind of thinking, okay, Brandon's in the game, he's finally bringing something that's making me see him as a possible contender. So then after the Fashion Week challenge, we see the judges deliberate in terms of who they're going to put in the hot seat. I do think it's a bit cheeky that we didn't get to see everybody's look. They only really gave us a snippet of the tops and the bottoms. So it's not like we really had all of them to compare to each other, which I personally thought was a bit annoying. Obviously, they only really showed us Brendan as the best look, so we can only deduce that he was the best look. And they only really showed us 3 bad looks, so I guess we're going to have to just take them as the worst looks. So Bernie, he took over an hour on that look, and it looked pretty basic. Obviously Shanice, Dom didn't like that she didn't stick exactly to the brief, but from what the snippets that I saw around the room, I don't think it was that far off. And then James, I guess it was decent considering he literally had 8 minutes, but it did look bad. But I thought they were probably going to let him off because he literally only had 8 minutes. So in terms of who was going to be in the red seat, it's very clear that Bernie and Shanice were going to be in the hot seat, and of course they were. So then we see the personal brief look, and this week it is icons, so who the people find iconic, whether it's real people or characters, things of that nature. So then when we see people start going to work, we get a few snippets here and there. The first notable snippet, James revealing that he has a twitch. Knowing that just shows how skillful he is, because his makeup is very precise for somebody who does a lot of freehand work. So yeah, I found that very interesting. But I think a notable feel of this episode, it kind of felt like people were running out of time. Like when they're saying you've got an hour left, you've got 30 minutes left, and then you see where people were at in their stages of makeup. From what the editing made it seem like, I thought there was going to be a lot of people in jeopardy, because I was just thinking, how are you going to be able to finish this look in that amount of time? So then we have the presentation, and up first was Ophelia. She did a great job. I'm not sure if it was as good as last week, but obviously she's keeping it consistency. I'm not sure if it was as good as last week, but she's keeping it consistent. But Val takes a little snipe at her and basically says that she wants to see something different. When are we going to see something different? And I was just kind of thinking, but aren't we only on episode 2? Like, fair enough if this was like 3 or 4, but we're only on episode 2, babe. So I thought that was very strange for her to come at her like that. I think it would have been perfectly fine to be like, I'd love to see you experiment with a different style. But even if she was to do negative space every week, if that is her style of makeup, I don't really see the issue with it. But what do you guys think? Do you think Val had a point, or do you feel like it just felt a little bit unnecessary? Then we have Eve, and I thought it was a pretty decent look. I think it was a very good concept, and it looked good, but I think it was just a bit more refined. It would have taken it to that next level. But I think all in all, it was a good job from Eve, especially considering what she pulled last week. It's nice to see some actual creativity. Shanice's look was basic. I was kind of thinking, if you want to get out of the hot seat, you definitely needed to bring something better than that. And I wasn't very convinced that the look would get her out of the hot seat. It wasn't really giving me much Jimi Hendrix. The only Jimi Hendrix thing reference that I got really was the wig in terms of the psychedelic paint. It didn't really look 3D, and it kind of just looked generic to the 70s rather than iconography that you can identify with Jimi Hendrix. So I was kind of thinking she was probably going to stay in the hot seat. The judges read her for the look, and Dominic made a comment saying that he doesn't expect the makeup artist to not be able to freehand guitars and that she shouldn't have used a stencil. I think that was a really trivial thing to point out. I just feel like I don't see the problem with using a stencil. Most people, he was even using a stencil to make sure that the glitter didn't go everywhere. I don't think that that's any different, so I just think that's a bit trifling, to be honest. But what do you guys think? Do you think makeup artists shouldn't use stencils, or you don't really see the problem with it? Let me know what you guys think. Then we see Jake. His makeup was basic. He said that his inspiration was his sister. He's given this story about how the golden tears are meant to show his sister's emotion. And it was bullshit, really. But I guess he could kind of get away with it, because if he says that that's his sister, his inspiration for this look, it's not very disputable. But I think it was very cheeky, and it's very clear that Jake has no idea what he's doing. Then we see Bernie. Again, a basic look. In his head, he probably thought it was going to look a lot better than it did. And even himself, he was saying, I hope the photograph saves it. Unfortunately, the photograph didn't save it. It kind of just looked like face paint. The judges read him for it. They said that it looked like paint. They said that it wasn't really blended properly. So I was pretty sure he was also going to not manage to get out of the hot seat either. Then we see Hannah's look. It's a decent look. I like what she's done with the textures. I don't think it was as good as her last look, though. Then we see Brandon's look. Obviously his look was inspired by Grace Jones, and I just didn't see any Grace Jones from it. I think it was a very basic Grace Jones look. It was very soft, very glam, and not really the androgynous vibe that I get when I think about Grace Jones. And of course the judges read him on it. I thought it was one of the badder looks, but I thought he'd probably be safe considering he performed well in the rest of the episode. We have 2 Bowie looks this week, and the first one is Kezia's look. And I thought that it was an okay look, but it looked a bit basic in my opinion. I felt like it looked like the Instagram version of David Bowie, if that makes any sense. It just looked very cutesy, but not really artistically creative in my opinion. But what did you guys think of Kezia's Bowie look? Were you here for it? Did you kind of just think it was basic? I'd be interested to know. And then we see James's Bowie look, and when you see James's Bowie look, it just makes Kezia's Bowie look insignificant. I think this was probably my favourite look. The little fade of the bolt that he did with the glitter, I thought was just such a great finishing touch. The contouring was great. The bold patch was seamless. So I think in terms of makeup game, I think from the second episode, I think it's going to be between James and Ophelia. Just basing it off this episode. Obviously, you know, we could see other people come up in the coming weeks, but I think for now, my eyes are on Ophelia and James. So let me know what you guys' favourite looks were this week. So this week, in terms of my favourite and my least favourite looks, obviously favourite look is James, hands down. And my least favourite looks, and who I thought could potentially be up for the face-off, were Shanice's, Bernie's, Brandon's and Jake's. I thought Shanice was definitely in the face-off, and I thought probably Bernie would be there with her, because I feel like in terms of you being in the face-off and you doing enough to get yourself out of the face-off, I don't think Bernie did enough. But I thought if Bernie wasn't going to be in the face-off, it was going to be Jake, because Jake's look was pretty cheeky this week. They come in, so obviously they deliberate, and then they come in, they give the verdict. Shanice is still in the hot seat, and to my surprise, Bernie has managed to win his place back into the competition. I was like, okay, interesting. Who's it going to be? Okay, Jake. Then they said Brandon, and I was like, okay, cool. At first I was kind of just like, well, clearly Jake should be in the bottom. Like, there's clearly, again, minimal effort put in here. At least there, even though Brandon's look wasn't executed, you got what he was trying to do. And there was, again, a well thought out concept there. So I was a bit confused, but at the same time, Jake did have a brief. As simple as it was, it still was a brief, and he stuck to that brief, whilst Brendan did not. So I can understand why they kept Jake in, but again, I kind of feel like maybe they want to keep him in because A, entertainment, and 2, I feel like they're setting Jake up for a villain edit. He's going to be that annoying makeup artist that keeps getting through, and people are just like, why is he there? So I think they're kind of doing Jake dirty, actually keeping him in this competition, because I just feel like it's not really doing him any favours. But what do you guys think about that verdict? Do you agree with it, or do you feel like some wrong decisions were made? And what decisions do you think should have been made if you feel that way? So coming into the face-off, I was thinking that Brandon was going to win and Shanice was going to go home. But again, you never really know. Jake won the face-off last week, and that was very surprising. So you never really know how things are going to go. So this week in the face-off, it is freckles, natural freckles to be exact. And of course, usual, they've got 10 minutes to do it. And right off the bat, I knew that Brandon was going to win, because Shanice's freckles were just a bit too faint. You couldn't really see them. And then obviously we see the side by side, and Brendan's freckles did look better than Shanice's freckles. So another one bites the dust. Of course, I'm wishing Shanice the best of luck. But we have another week with Jake still in the game. I wonder how long he's going to last. He's clearly not going to win it. So it's just kind of just like, well, how long is he going to last in the competition? Because I really don't think he's going to offer us much of this competition. I think obviously this was a chance for him to show, this week was obviously a chance for him to show us why he should stay in the competition, and he hasn't really shown us a strong argument for that. But yeah, that's pretty much the end of this podcast. I'd be interested to know what your thoughts are on this episode and what you thought of my commentary. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and if you have, don't forget to press that notification bell. I'm almost at 1.3 subscribers, and I'd appreciate if you help me reach my goal. Till next time, guys. Bye.